This video is sponsored by Squarespace. Squarespace is an all-in-one platform that allows you to build a beautiful, easy-to-use website to reach your customers, sell your products, create content, and so much more. Thanks to Squarespace for supporting this channel. All sports have their unwritten rules. Look at baseball, for Christ's sake. But with an event like the NFL Draft, where a franchise's entire future can be determined by their decisions they make over a 3-day span, certain rules have developed over time that have become gospel. And like most rules, they aren't often followed. But first, let's just find out what they are. The unwritten rules of the NFL Draft are coming up right after this. Rule 1. Never draft a running back in the first round. There was a time in the NFL where a team's running back was just as important as its quarterback, if not more so. Those were the days of the bell cow backs, the Walter Paytons, Eric Dickersons, and Tony Dorsetts. But as the pendulum has shifted away from the run and more towards the pass, the value of running backs has been diminished. In the modern NFL, plenty of draft wonks have taken the hard and fast stance that under no circumstances should a running back be taken in the first round. However, I don't think the Vikings regret selecting Adrian Peterson 7th overall in 2007. But Peterson is closer to the exception than the rule. For every AD, there's a Leonard Fournette, Trent Richardson, or Saquon Barkley. There are some valid reasons why running backs just aren't worth a first-round pick. Offensive linemen are more responsible for making the run game go than a running back, unless your name is Barry Sanders. Second, running backs, due to the nature of the position, take more of a beating than any other position. Their durability can lead to problems down the road. Just ask any Giants fan. Me. Saquon is a great back, especially when he's healthy, but some career-altering injuries and a lack of push up front have rendered the 2018 second overall pick a questionable selection. The Giants could have selected Quentin Nelson and then in the second round passed on Will Hernandez and selected Georgia running back Nick Chubb. Instead, the Giants are stuck paying an off-injured back $31 million over 4 years. And if they do want to give it another go, they'll have to pony up a second contract, which is another cardinal sin in the realm of team building. It's easy to be tempted by the charms of a first-round running back, but it's like drugs. Just say no, and, well, that's always worked, right? Rule 2, take the best player available. When it comes to team building, there are two main avenues of acquiring talent: free agency and the draft. Thanks to the NFLPA, veterans get priority and free agency comes first. That's where teams should try to patch up the major holes on their roster. But when the draft comes, it's time for taking the best player on the board. Now, we need to establish a quick caveat. Quarterback trumps everything. If you need a QB, but the top guy on your board is rated lower than another position, it's probably still a good idea to take that QB. But you don't want to reach that far, Daniel Jones.
Oh no! 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 They did not take Daniel Jones!
Taking the best player available turns you into a team with assets, not liabilities. If you have a good left tackle and you draft a great left tackle, that gives you options. You can slide one of them over, or you can trade the more expensive player for a pick while also freeing up cap space. It's always insurance for when your older players hit the wall and their production starts to dip. When the Denver Broncos took Patrick Surtain 9th overall in 2021, they were roasted for passing on Justin Fields. But when Kyle Fuller underperformed and Bryce Callahan got hurt, Denver looked pretty smart, especially now that they have Wilson. Or you could take a look at the 2007 Detroit Lions. Everything Detroit had done in the past was a warning that they should not take a wide receiver. Charles Rogers and Mike Williams were immense busts, and the one that did work out, Roy Williams, seemed like he could lock down the #1 spot at wideout. But that didn't keep them from passing up on Georgia Tech freak show Calvin Johnson. They could have reached and grabbed Brady Quinn, but they took BPA at #2 overall. After 2 seasons of serious losing failure, they eventually found their guy at quarterback, only to waste him too, though. NFL teams, or perhaps just analysts, are too preoccupied with making sure a team has 0 weaknesses when they should be looking to maximize their strengths, though they did nail their assessment of the Texans before this year's draft. Rule number 3, never draft a punter. You would think this rule would be obvious, There have actually been 153 punters selected in the history of the NFL draft dating back to 1963. If we narrow down the list of drafted punters from 2010 to the present day, we have 21 names. Out of those strong legs, only 2 have made a Pro Bowl: Michael Dixon and Brian Anger. It's not hard to acquire a solid or average punter. It's nice to have a good one, but the way the NFL is trending, punting is going to become less of a factor as more nerdy coaches go for it on fourth. And yes, I can personally attest to the horrors of drafting a punter. Thank you, Matt Dodge. I enjoyed your one season in York, and I will never forgive you. Rule number 4, never make a trade out of desperation. The goal for any team before the draft should be flexibility. No one wants to be cornered into having to take a certain position, because when they are, bad things happen. Take the Broncos in 2016, who were fresh off of a Super Bowl, but were left bare at quarterback when Peyton Manning retired. Owning the last pick of the first round, Denver traded up for Paxton Lynch, who is currently warming benches in the USFL. After the bizarre move to pay Mike Glennon, the Chicago Bears were so desperate at quarterback a year later that they moved up one spot to grab North Carolina quarterback Mitch Kissantitties. It turns out they could have traded down and still ended up with either Patrick Mahomes or Deshaun Watson, and they will hear this forever. Luckily for Chiefs fans and masseuses in the greater Chicago area, the Bears' desperation did them in. But what about a desperate trade that sort of worked out? Well, when the San Diego Chargers drafted an unwilling Eli Manning in 2004, they were forced into a position where they had very little leverage with a QB who didn't want to play for them. The Chargers swapped Eli for Phillip Rivers. Suffice to say, it ended up being a win-win, except for the part where the Giants got to win 2 Super Bowls, and the Bolts got none. Maybe it didn't work out. Rule 5, always try to screw over a rival. NFL front offices are normal people, extremely petty. When it comes to a divisional rival, you don't want to give them a leg up in the draft. In fact, teams should be looking to screw over a rival if and when they get a chance. Everyone's favorite division, the NFC least, has been home to some serious gamesmanship. Let's go back to the second round of the 2018 draft when the Cowboys were anxiously waiting for a tight end to fall in their laps. Jason Witten had retired and they had to have someone, and they had the perfect one in their sights. It was almost too perfect. Even his name was perfect. Then, the Eagles traded up, and they took Dallas Goedert. Turns out, Philly wanted a tight end as well after losing Brent Selleck, but instead of letting Jera have his cake, Philly acted and screwed over a rival in the process. Dallas scored in 3 of his first 4 games against Dallas, while Jerry Jones seethed from his luxury box. Turns out, Philly liked how that felt, so they decided to try out this tactic on another rival. In the 2021 draft, the G-Men had their sights set on Heisman winner Devontae Smith. Stop me if you've heard this one before, but so did the Eagles. Philly leapfrogged their rivals, moving up to pick 10, while ironically making a trade with the Cowboys. Smith would go on to have a solid rookie season. The Giants were stuck with their second choice, Florida's Kadarius Toney. And I don't need to tell you how I felt about that pick, I can just show you. I don't know, the pick is in, so we'll see who it is.
They gotta go edge. They have to go edge.
If they take Kadarius Toney, I'm gonna freaking.
With the 20th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the New York Giants select Kadarius Toney, wide receiver of Florida.
And now for our final rule, number 6. Beware the workout warriors. The top of the 1989 draft is a who's who of Hall of Famers. Troy Aikman, Barry Sanders, Derek Thomas, and Deion Sanders were all taken in the top 5. Of course, some of you math nerds have noticed I only named 4 players. That's because there's one name that just doesn't fit. With the second overall pick, the Packers took the bait on the incredible bulk, Michigan State tackle Tony Mandarich. Mandarich had measurables off the charts, including a 4.65 40, faster than Jerry Rice and Emmitt Smith, and 39 reps of 225 pounds on the bench press. It turns out a lot of those numbers were juiced thanks to the help of, well, juice. Mandarich turned from bulk to bust, and the Packers' second overall pick became a cautionary tale. Teams are frequently fooled by workout warriors, by the guys who test better than they play. Some prominent examples include Jets pass rusher Vernon Gholston, who ran a 4.58 40, but recorded 0.0 sacks in the NFL. The NFL was in awe when Washington wideout John Ross broke records with a 4.22 40-yard dash, but it turns out there's more to playing wide receiver than running fast in a straight line. In 5 seasons after being drafted by the Bengals 9th overall in 2017, Ross has yet to compile 1,000 total receiving yards. Meanwhile, future Super Bowl MVP Cooper Kupp had to wait until the 3rd round to hear his name called, probably because he ran a 4.62 40. Just because a rule isn't written down doesn't mean you shouldn't follow it. Let that little voice in your head tell you what you should do. Don't draft that combine warrior should be as reflective as not sticking your dick in crazy. So when you are watching the draft this year, be sure to point out when none of these rules get followed. Are you an aspiring content creator? Do you have a business? Then I have to ask you the same question I asked myself. Why don't I have a freaking website? That's where Squarespace comes in, the easiest and most practical way for you and me to build a website. I love how it gives me the options that I thought were difficult to set up, things like an online store, membership areas, and seamless integration of my social media accounts. It's all in one place and easy to manage. Plus, for you stat nerds out there, they give you built-in analytics so you can track your success. So after this video, head on over to squarespace.com/5pointsvids to get a free trial and 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Again, that's squarespace.com/5pointsvids from the link below to get 10% off your first website or domain purchase. Squarespace.com.